The chamber hummed with the low murmurs of 100 alien diplomats, each seated in their designated section of the Galactic Concorde's Grand Hall. The air was sterile, thick with the scent of ozone and polished metal. At the center, beneath the towering holodisplays of treaty texts and territorial maps, sat the human delegation. Their lead negotiator, Ambassador Elias Voss, leaned back in his chair, eyes cold and calculating. The Zelvoran representative, a towering creature of armored chitin and 6 burning red eyes, tapped its claws against the obsidian table. "You must understand, Ambassador Voss, this is not a request. The colony on Meridian 3 will be ceded to the Dominion. Your people's presence in that sector is an affront to the natural order." Voss exhaled slowly, fingers interlocked. He had seen this before, bullying disguised as diplomacy. The Zelvoran had pushed smaller nations into submission for centuries, their empire built on intimidation and raw aggression. Humanity, however, had never played by the same rules. Other species watched in silence. Some pitied the humans, believing them cornered. Others, the older, wiser civilizations, observed with unease, recalling the patterns of history. "The answer," Voss said finally, "is no." The Zelvoran's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Then we have nothing left to discuss." Voss held his gaze. "You're right." He pushed his chair back, rising smoothly to his feet. Behind him, the human delegation followed suit without hesitation. The air in the chamber shifted, a current of tension rippling outward. Gasps and hushed whispers erupted among the gathered species. No one walked away from the negotiation table. To do so was an act of defiance, a rejection of the Concorde's authority, a declaration that diplomacy had failed. The Zelvoran let out a sharp, chittering laugh. "Leaving so soon, Ambassador? What will your people do, fight us? You cannot win." Voss paused, his expression unreadable. He straightened his suit, adjusting the cuffs. Then, with the calm finality of a man sealing history's pages, he simply said, "Negotiations are over." He turned and walked out. The human delegation followed. Silence consumed the chamber. Even the most jaded diplomats, those who had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, felt the weight of the moment. The Zelvoran, blind in their arrogance, saw a victory. The rest of the galaxy saw something else. A storm was coming. The silence left behind by the humans lingered longer than expected. The Zelvoran delegate clicked its mandibles, the mockery in its posture evident. Typical humans. Fragile. Emotional. They've sealed their own fate. The other species present weren't so sure. Some shook their heads, whispering among themselves, uncertain whether the humans had made a grave mistake or a calculated move. Within hours, the galactic news networks were ablaze with speculation. Anchors and analysts debated the implications. Some ridiculed humanity, calling their departure political suicide. Others, particularly those who had studied human history, remained uneasy. The Zelvoran, convinced of their dominance, wasted no time. Their war machine, ever eager, began preparing an invasion force. Their fleets mobilized toward Meridian 3, confident it would fall without resistance. Meanwhile, within the inner circles of the Galactic Concorde, murmurs of concern grew louder. The older races, the ones who had seen civilizations rise and fall, recognized the shift. The humans had not pleaded, had not bluffed. They had simply left. And history had shown that when humans walked away, they were already planning something. In the shadows of their homeworlds, powerful empires reconsidered their positions. Humanity had been a stabilizing force in recent years, negotiating peace, advancing trade, ensuring balance. If they had truly abandoned diplomacy, the consequences would be far-reaching. A Zelvoran warlord, drunk on arrogance, issued a statement to the galactic press. "Humanity is weak. They fear war, as they should. Their colonies will kneel, and their fleets will scatter." Back in human space, silence reigned. No statements. No threats. No rebuttals. Just quiet, methodical preparation. Fleets repositioned, supply lines adjusted, alliances solidified behind closed doors. Those who had doubted humanity began to understand a terrifying truth. They weren't retreating. They were preparing to end the war before it could begin. The Zelvoran fleet arrived at Meridian 3 expecting an easy conquest. Their warships, dark and jagged, descended upon the colony, prepared for a swift victory. What they found instead was silence. No distress calls. No panicked evacuations. Just an empty void, waiting. Then, the first ship vanished. One moment, a Zelvoran battleship loomed over the planet. The next, its systems went dark, its crew lost without a trace. No explosion. No warning. Just, gone. Confusion spread through the fleet. Orders flew across the command network. Sensors flared. Then, another ship disappeared. And another. Panic took hold. The Zelvoran were used to direct combat, to overwhelming their enemies through sheer brutality. But this was something else. Their fleets weren't being met in battle. They were being hunted. In distant war rooms, human commanders watched with cold efficiency. Every move had been calculated. Every strike precise. The Zelvoran had expected brute force. Instead, they were unraveling, their supply lines severed, their communications disrupted, their forces isolated and dismantled one by one. Their invasion fleet, once so confident, became a graveyard of drifting wrecks. Survivors reported whispers in the dark, signals intercepted and repurposed, their own technology turned against them. Humanity wasn't engaging in war. They were demonstrating control. The Zelvoran War Council convened in desperation, their confidence shattered. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Their enemies were supposed to beg for mercy, to crumble under fire. Instead, the humans had not lost a single ship. And their fleets were now moving toward the Zelvoran homeworld. The Zelvoran homeworld, once the seat of an empire built on conquest, now stood in terrified silence. Their war fleets, once vast and unstoppable, were gone, picked apart with ruthless efficiency. Their colonies, once symbols of dominance, now cut off, abandoned to the void. The humans had never spoken a single threat. They had never declared war. They had simply acted. Now, as the first human ships entered Zelvoran space, the War Council finally understood. They had miscalculated. They had assumed humanity's diplomacy was weakness, their patience an invitation to exploit. But when humanity walked away from the table, they weren't conceding. They were deciding the terms of the inevitable. Desperation took hold. The Zelvoran scrambled to send envoys, frantic messages offering to reopen negotiations. The humans did not respond. Their fleets continued forward, shields unbroken, weapons silent. The message was clear: humanity was not here for war. They were here to end it. At last, the Zelvoran High Chancellor, the same voice that once dismissed humanity as insignificant, stood before the Galactic Council. His posture, once towering and proud, was now hunched with resignation. "We seek peace." A familiar figure stepped forward, Ambassador Elias Voss. His expression remained unchanged, as if the outcome had never been in doubt. He placed a new treaty on the table, sliding it forward without a word. The Chancellor's claws trembled as he reached for it. He didn't bother reading the terms. They both knew there was no negotiation left. Voss watched, silent, as the Zelvoran signed. Only then did he finally speak. "Next time, choose your words carefully.